Welcome to a sports betting podcast from pregame.com for the week of September 23rd, 2009. I'm your host, RJ Bell. I'm joined by Marco D'Angelo, 30 years in the business, Vegas runner, a genuine professional bettor here in Vegas. This is segment 1 of 5 in which we're talking about 0-2 and 2-0 teams in the NFL. All right, Marco, straight to it. From a betting perspective, what are the keys to these extreme teams that are, some are 2-0, some are 0-2?
Well, this is a crucial week in the public perception mode because there's so much talk about teams that start the season 3-0 or 0-3, their effect of the playoffs are. Teams just don't make the playoffs that start 0-3 historically in the NFL. So the public will push the panic button on some of these teams, and Vegas knows that. The better teams that have underachieved so far, they will make you pay a premium with that team.
All right, so looking at the 0-2 teams, there's 3 teams that stand out as entering the season with high expectation. Tennessee, 0-2, Carolina, 0-2, Miami, 0-2. Any thoughts?
We got the exact same ones underlined. Yeah, and that's what I think you need to be able to differentiate. Which ones are we surprised about, and which ones do we expect to be 0-2 or 2-0? As far as the Carolinas, the Miamis, the Tennessees, I think we are surprised seeing these teams come out of the gate 0-2, and I think coming into week 3, you can put them in the must-win category.
All right, so who's the best team that's 0-2 right now?
The best 0-2 team, in my estimation, I think it's still Tennessee because of how impressive they were last year, and they still have them same pieces. There's really no reason for this team to have that big of a drop-off.
And the case can be made is they could easily be 2-0.
Absolutely. They had 2 close losses. Both were by 3 points, and, they're playing, they got another tough task this week, and it's actually a game that I'll be talking about later in the podcast.
We got a free pick coming from Marco. Now, you've been, 4 in a row on the free picks?
4 in a row with the free picks. Colorado last week, 24-0, and we're going to go for 5 this week.
Remember, if you're watching on video, you can get all of the videos, including that 5th free pick segment at pregame.tv. Okay, so let's look at the 2-0 teams. Denver clearly jumps out as a team that is exceeding expectations. New Orleans and the Jets are teams that you wouldn't expect either to be in this spot. Well, I guess New Orleans is a unique situation in that you actually had them as your future bet at about 22-1.
40, wasn't it?
No. Now that I remember, because I actually bet it right around.
It was 20. That was the 20
So it was 22-1. And actually, about a week or so after, they were down to 12-1. So coming right up to the season, there was a real intense appreciation of New Orleans, and now this team has done exceedingly well, especially with a high-octane offense, which the public seems to love. Is this a team that's a little overrated right now?
I don't think so. I think the defense just needs to come around. I mean, right now, let's tell it like it is. They don't need defense. You got to outscore them, and no one's been able to do that. So they're getting it done offensively. I think the big push why the future odds dropped so much was because of the new defensive coordinator and how he's going to turn it around. And we already saw last year how potent this offense was. And Drew Brees and the 5,000 yards is expected year in and year out now. It's no longer, by accident.
Don't start printing playoff tickets just yet. Let's look at
playoff tickets. I'm reserved Super Bowl tickets already.
It sounds like he practiced that line.
I already reserved Super Bowl tickets.
They've beaten Detroit, who hasn't won a game in their 19 straight losses with the Lions, and they beat Philadelphia without their starting quarterback.
On the road in Philly, not an easy thing to do.
Where are you from?
Philly.
Okay, I just checking. But this is a team that, they're scoring a ton of points. They've played 2 teams that, weren't at their best. Obviously, forget the Detroit win, and Philadelphia wins tainted because of the injuries. They got a good test this week. They go into Buffalo, and Buffalo's played well. I mean, they're a 1-1 team that very well could have been a 2-0 team, and we'll see what they do. We'll see what they do in Buffalo. That'll give us a better barometer, in my opinion, of just where this New Orleans team is.
And this New Orleans, actually, I was a fan of this team entering the season. I think this is a good example of the old school versus new school wise guys. As in, the old school would say this team has overperformed. The public loves them, especially with all those points. There's no way there's value on this team. The new school wise guys will say maybe so. Maybe they are a little bit overvalued. You're not getting the best number, but they're playing so well that they're like a runaway freight train. And I just wonder, this team, and people tend to forget handicappers, these are human beings. Even in college, they're kids, but even in the pros, these are 30-year-old guys that get excited when they're winning and get down when they're losing. And it's hard to imagine this New Orleans team isn't going to play well this week.
You hit it perfectly on the head, old school versus new school, and that's what the going into this week, that's what I'm anxious to see. All the old school wise guys that I've spoken to, you know, them sharps that are down there with their pencils still in the ear, don't have a computer, they're saying you got to fade this team this week and you got to bet them under. They ain't going to go over every
you know
week. The total's going to
yeah.
be overinflated because the new school wise guys, you know, the internet whiz kids, they're unloading over like it's free money. They're saying all I need is a touchdown from the other team, and New Orleans is going to put it over by themselves. And there may not be value on going under because it is an inflated number, but if you're cashing a ticket, how can you say there's no value there?
Our job as handicappers is almost like a stockbroker. What we have to do in the early going of the season is take these teams and we want to buy, you know, the old saying is buy low, sell high. And a lot of these teams are going to be overpriced based on what they've done in the first 2 weeks, and some of them are going to be underpriced, and we got to find the value. That's what we do as handicappers.
Exactly
That's my style.
All right, now back to the or talking about old school, new school. I think the odds makers has been an evolution. Let's look at this Tennessee now. Yes or no answer, forced answers. McLaughlin says on the McLaughlin group is. Have the Jets been the most impressive team so far, yes or no?
Yes.
Have the Jets
Bar
been?
none, absolutely.
All right. And Tennessee's 0-2.
Yep.
But the game's Jets-Tennessee this week at New York, so if they're even teams, it'd be -3, and it's -2, 2.5. So we have the most impressive team in the NFL that's undefeated against an 0-2 team, and they're actually saying the 0-2 team is better.
It is the stronger of the two.
All right, so there's two ways to look at that, and there's going to most likely be the Marco way, which is Vegas is begging you to take the Jets, and thus he wants to be on the side of the bookmakers, and that's a very successful approach. But man, does this not tell you that the odds makers aren't saying 0-2? You know, you would expect this line to be 4 or so.
At least I was surprised that it came out like that. I thought it would come out above the field goal, and if anything, the old school wise guys grab the approach and take the plus, you know, and drive it down to a field goal when everybody else bets it on Sunday. So having it come out below a field goal to me is surprising because yes, Tennessee could easily be 2-0, but they're not. They're 0-2. While the Jets on the flip side, games they should have lost. They were supposed to lose last week. They were a dog at home to New England. Opened up as a 6-point dog, even though it did go down to 3.5. And they won that game convincingly. New England wasn't in the game most of it, at least from the second half on. So to me, it looks like the value is with the Jets. But again, you know, you're the master of that. Are they begging us to take the Jets?
Well, again, when we get to the last
30
segment,
seconds, Marco.
You'll get more of it. I'll break this game down in detail because this is going to be my free pick. But the lines maker has to adjust, and this is going to be the first time the Jets have been a favorite, period. So they are making a major adjustment.
If this game was played in week 1, what would you make the line?
They're not making any major. That's crazy talk. They were on the road, or I mean, clearly against New England, the line was so low that we were talking about, wow, how low are the Jets line last week in the podcast. And on the road, in week 1, it would have made no sense for them not to be a dog. So I mean, to say this line is coming in, where would the line come in at? Tennessee lane 2?
Well, in week 1, if this game was played in week 1, Tennessee would have been a favorite in this game, I think.
Answer it this way: on a neutral field, what would the line been between Tennessee and New England?
Between Tennessee and New England?
Right, because I'm going to make the comparison.
All right, well, so here's what we're going to have to do. We're running up against our 10-minute limit. We'll continue this conversation in the 5th segment, which is the free pick segment.
Absolutely.
And a lot of good stuff here. Okay, a lot of good stuff. So next up is we're going to be talking about college polls and what they mean. And remember, you can actually watch all of our videos at pregame.tv, or if you want to listen, go to iTunes and search for pregame.com.